as I was saying, this goes out to my friend Gabe has Sports, who is not the most efficient when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So I'm going to bring him into the. I'm going to send him a link through YouTube link into the Discord, into the Discord, or he and I are a part of, and I'm going to send him a link through YouTube link into the Discord, into the Discord, or he and I are a part of, and send him a link through YouTube link, Discord, or he and I are a part of, and send him a link through YouTube link, Discord, or he and I are a part of, and send him a link through YouTube link. Sorry about that. My long distance girlfriend was asking me for what she wanted to trade. I was willing to trade her knowledge if we meet up in the summer, near the end of the summer. I teach her conversational English. She teach me conversational Chinese. That being said, let's get back to this. New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestling Dontaku 2022, coming live from the PayPay Dome in Fukuoka. This coming Sunday. We have 9 matches on this card. Normally, under these COVID restrictions, New Japan wouldn't do more than 8 matches on a major card. However, due to a request by one of the wrestlers, Yohei Komatsu, to get Hiromu Takahashi one-on-one, we're having 9 instead of 8. So let's run down this card. And Gabe, I'll bring each of these players up to you. We'll start with a 6-man tag team match. On one side, the faction of Suzukigun, run by Minoru Suzuki, but since he's here in the States doing AEW stuff, he's not in charge right now. The team will be consistent of Taka Michinoku, who I'm pretty sure you would know from his tenure in the WWE, part of the old Kaientai unit, and alongside Funaki. Taichi, who he actually helped, a guy named Taichi, who was an All Japan trainee, actually trained by YOSHI-HASHI and Toshiaki Kawada, who bounced around between All Japan, some AAA and CMLL organizations before landing in New Japan, alongside Taka, and originally formed Suzuki-Gun's original predecessor, Kojima-Gun, under Satoshi Kojima, before May 2011, when Suzuki overtook Kojima and it formed Suzukigun, or the Suzuki Army. Taka and Taichi have been cornerstones of the group. And of course, Zack Sabre Jr. Many would know him from his tenure in the independent promotions, whether it be in the States, Europe, predominantly WXW, or any of the UK promotions. Best known as the Technical Wizard. His submission game is second to none. He will tie you up in fucking knots. He is very wiry, stretchy, flexible. He will ground you, twist you like a pretzel. That's how dangerous Zack can be. He's been at this for 18 years as a pro. He just recently celebrated his 18th or 19th anniversary as a wrestler. He's been wrestling since 2004. On the other side, you have Los Ingobernables de Japon's BUSHI, a junior heavyweight who wears a luchador-style mask, but trust me, it's not the mask he wears in the ring that's what makes him stand out. It's the elaborate designs of the mask he wears on his way to the ring that cover his in-ring mask. Those things are so flashy. He's got one shaped like a lion, Venom, Carnage. He's quite the artist when it comes to his masks. And longtime Dragon Gate alumnus, the Dragon Shingo Takagi, who was the most recent IWGP World Heavyweight Champion before he dropped it to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. A guy mostly known for variations of the Samoan drop and Death Valley Driver, and basically a running clothesline when he's come off the ropes and his opponent is staggering in the center of the ring, called the pumping bomber. The centrifugal force he gives when he throws that thing, boom! You're almost guaranteed to get your head taken off. They're teaming up with New Japan legend, and WWE Hall of Famer, the Dragon, Tatsumi Fujinami. A man who was a 6-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion in his heyday. The guy who trained Hiroshi Tanahashi. The master of the Dragon Screw leg whip. You know, the move where you grab your opponent's leg where you think you're in a position where you think your opponent's going to deliver an enziguri, but instead you come down, twisting down on it, dragging them to the canvas. That's painful to deal with. My pick to win, because there's a legend on the team, I'm going with the Los Ingobernables duo, and Fujinami. Simple as that. I mean, the only reason Fujinami's in this match, it's New Japan's 50th anniversary. Their golden birth. Their golden anniversary. Moving on is the singles match that I mentioned that got added to this card for the sake of getting added. Representing Los Ingobernables de Japon, Hiromu Takahashi, the ticking time bomb, and on the other side, Yohei Komatsu, who represents the faction of Chaos. Both these guys were young lions in different classes, year classes. I think Hiromu was around 2011, 2012 when he graduated and got shipped out on excursion in 2014, where he would take up the CMLL name that he was given, Kamaitachi. That's where I first met Hiromu in the flesh. And how I met Hiromu in the flesh at Best in the World 2016 when it came here to Concord. Takahashi is known for being an erratic, lunatic ball of energy. He will come at you hard and fast and very unpredictable. One of his signature moves is basically a sunset flip powerbomb over the top rope and out of the ring with his opponent on the apron, and they crash onto the canvas. Yo, on the other hand, and he's also known for, and Hiromu was also known for a while carrying this plush Lucky Rice cat that he called Daryl. There's a bit of a video that's aired around with the jokes of back in 2017 when Bad Luck Fale of Bullet Club got his hands on Daryl, he shredded it. And trust me, he treated that cat like his own kid. Not that Hiromu is married, but for some reason the doll is. It has a wife named Carol and a kid named El Hijo de Daryl, or son of Daryl. I mean, back to Yo. Yo I first saw in 2017 in the flesh when he and his former tag partner Sho Tanaka teamed with Colt Cabana to take on Dalton Castle and the boys over the Ring of Honor 6-man titles. They weren't successful. Upon coming back to New Japan, they were rebranded Roppongi 3000 or Roppongi 3K and put into Chaos under the wing of Rocky Romero. And they won 5 IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Titles together, but they never held them for that long and only got 2 successful defenses out of them. The Junior Tag Titles are known to bounce like a hot potato. Anyway, last year, though, Yo ended up hitting a downward spiral, which ultimately led to Show turning on him, leaving Chaos, and joining the Bullet Club. Yo has been hit or miss. There are times where he's on the rise and times where he's on the fall. These two met in the Best of Super Junior finals last year, with Hiromu coming out on top, in spite of Show trying to sabotage the match at the end, near the end of the tournament. Hiromu was victorious that night. Does Yo get his revenge and get the W going in the Best of Super Juniors 29, which starts on May 15th? I don't know. Yeah, I need a new piggy bank if this thing is falling apart. I think I've had this since Christmas of 2012 anyway. Heads it's Hiromu, tails it's Yo. Heads. Yo don't get his revenge tonight. I'm going Hiromu Takahashi. Really hate breaking the top of this thing. Let's move on to our next match, a grudge match. Tanga Loa of Girls of Destiny versus Bullet Club's Yujiro Takahashi. Recently, House of Torture retained the never 6-man titles over the team of God and Tanahashi due to some foul play. Since joining the House of Torture branch of Bullet Club, Yujiro has been basically doing everything he can to get back in the climb. He's now co-holder of the never openweight 6-man tag team championships, alongside Sho Tanaka, the guy who I mentioned doing my preview of the last match, and Evil. Though Yujiro didn't start out this way. He started out as a Hardy style teammate of Tetsuya Naito, and they formed a pretty cohesive tag team called No Limit, who won both the IWGP Junior and Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Then they got brought into Chaos in 2010, but by 2011, Yujiro had thrown. But in 2011, Yujiro kicked Naito out of Chaos and basically busted up his knees. That sidelined Naito for nearly a year. Then he formed a tag team with ECW alum Masato Tanaka to form the Complete Players. But Tanaka wasn't in Chaos all that long, nor did he stay in New Japan that long. 2014, Yujiro then hopped ship at Wrestling Dontaku that year by attacking Okada and costing him the IWGP Heavyweight title against AJ Styles, joining Bullet Club, becoming its first non-Gaijin or non-Western wrestler to join the group. Led to a never openweight title over Tomohiro Ishii, who was not on this show. And eventually, he's been through, since 2014, he's been every incarnation of Bullet Club. The Styles Run Club from 14 to 16. He's been part of Bullet Club with the Elite. He's been part of the Elite for a brief period. Then he went back to the main branch after Jay White took over in 2019. And in 2021, he became part of the subgroup, the House of Torture. The best way I can describe Yujiro Takahashi is that he's a fucking leech. He rides the coattails of whoever is, in his mind, the top dog. And in this case, it's a toss-up between Jay White and Evil. I do believe, though, Tanga Loa is going to kick his ass and make him eat ape shit, which is basically a Fire Island driver or that Tanga Loa uses. That's what he calls it, ape shit. because his moniker in New Japan is the Silverback. Moving on to match number 4, which will be for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. The champions, Team 6 or 9, that being Master Wato and Ryusuke Taguchi, who are the 69th IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. And Taguchi's a very superstitious because of this number. He's the 69th Junior Champ, Singles Champ, 69th Junior Tag Champ. They take on the duo, the Suzukigun duo of Yoshinobu Kanemaru and DOUKI. Kanemaru spent most of his time in All Japan, and when he debuted in 1996, but then in 2000, he was one of the 24 or so wrestlers, 4 wrestlers who joined Mitsuharu Misawa and formed Pro Wrestling Noah, where he thrived in the junior division, winning 7 GHC Junior Heavyweight Championships and 4 GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. He he joined Suzukigun in 2016 when the group was in Noah, and then left with them in 2017. And since coming back, he's won 5 junior tag titles. One with Taichi, and 4 of them with a guy who I'll mention in the third to last match when I get to it. Since coming to New Japan, Kanemaru's gimmick is he's a sake swigger. Well, whiskey swigger. One of his signature moves is the Suntory Surprise. He carries a bottle of Suntory whiskey with him. He'll take a swig of it and then spit it in his opponent's faces. What do you want, senor? Haven't you caused me enough trouble today, senor? Tell me, haven't you caused me enough trouble? Besides, I was trying to get Gabe in here. And for those wondering why I'm doing this for Gabe, fine. Apology accepted. Just never do it again, senor. At least now you know a little bit about me that I keep very close to the chest unless I've got no other options to spill it. Believe me, I don't like playing that card. Chris already did it for me, even though I didn't ask him to. Even though I didn't want him to do it. But that said, moving on. On the other side, you have Master Wato, who is a young lion named Hirai Kawato, and Ryusuke Taguchi. Taguchi, for those who don't know, was actually a former tag partner of the man known as Finn Balor, formerly known as Prince Devitt. They had formed a successful tag team called Apollo Go-Go, or Apollo 55. But in 2013, Devitt ended up turning heel, assaulted Taguchi, and Devitt, along with Bad Luck Fale, who I'll mention in the next match, formed Bullet Club with Carl Anderson and Tama Tonga, the brother of Tonga Loa, who I mentioned in the last match. But since then, he's been more of a joke wrestler. The gimmick with Taguchi, I really hate this. I mean, 2 former associates of mine, podcast of their own called This Week in the World of Wrestling. This was one of the few things the 3 of us found common ground on. I never liked Taguchi's antics because one of his main gimmicks is he attacks using his ass. I mean, sure, it's called a hip attack, but it's his ass. In some cases, his pants will get pulled down and we get a full fucking moon. I hate it. And this guy can be serious when he wants to be. But in most cases, he loves playing the goofball. And it's really bothersome. For Wato, this is his first. For Kawato / Master Wato, the junior tag titles are his first taste of IWGP Gold since coming back. So if he and Taguchi survive this and go into Best of Super Juniors, and for those wondering where he was on excursion, he spent his entire excursion in the CMLL promotion in Mexico. They will have targets on their backs. Why? Because if Taguchi or Wato lose a match during the tournament while they're the the BOSJ tournament, whoever wins that match, those matches against them, they and a partner and their partner, if they're part of an established team, will get a future IWGP Junior Tag Title shot. The same principle applies if DOUKI and Kanemaru get beat. And for those wondering who DOUKI is, not much was known about him until he showed up in 2019 to replace one of the men of Suzukigun who had to pull out due to a broken jaw. Now, he is a masked wrestler like BUSHI and a man I'll mention in the junior title match, but it's of a different kind. Let me get some. He wears a mask some more akin. Keep in mind, this is for visual demonstration. I don't like wearing this. It's not because I like wearing this, it's just for visual demonstration in regards to the kind of wrestler DOUKI is. Anyway, he wears a mask that kind of looks like this. Instead of one, like this. And trust me, this is even worse for me because I can barely see. Because not only can I barely breathe in this thing, this makes it very difficult for me to even see. Anyway, what little data I could find on DOUKI prior to the Best of Super Juniors in 2019 was mostly from the Rio Grande underground wrestling promotions. And he hates the luchadors who went through through the CMLL or AAA or even the Crash promotion dojos and got the preferential treatment. One of his gimmicks is he carries around a bent lead pipe with him. I'm like a quarterstaff. Anyway, do I think that pipe or the whiskey are going to help Suzukigun win? Eh, maybe, but I don't know. On the other hand, the nature of these tiles that bounce around like a hot potato, I wouldn't put it past them to swap hands here. So, yeah, as a wild card pick, I'm going to go Suzuki-Guns, Kanemaru, and DOUKI to win. I think it's time that DOUKI gets some junior gold on his waist. And for Kanemaru, this would be his seventh junior tag team title run. For those wondering who his first title run was with, it was with a guy by the name of Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, another guy who left All Japan to help form Noah alongside Kanemaru. Moving on, for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships, we have the champions, the United Empire, Jeff Cobb, who we have these guys. I'm not sure if I can do the crown right, but this is basically the emblem of the United Empire. It's a crown. Represented by the champions, the Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Gabe. Defending in a triple threat match against Bullet Club's underboss, Bad Luck Fale, and Chase Owens, who I know of through Twitch, though I don't get to talk to him all that much. And representing Chaos, Bishamon, the duo of YOSHI-HASHI and Hirooki Goto. If you're confused on the name, Bishop of the team, the Chaos duo's name, Gabe, Bishamon is the name of a god in Buddhism. Specifically, Bishamon is a war god, which is why when they come to the ring, Goto is carrying a priest staff a wandering monk staff. If anyone who's ever watched Inuyasha would, if you've seen that staff that Moroku carries around, that's the staff Goto carries around. Yoshi-Hashi, on the other hand, carries a quarter staff, carries a bow or quarter staff. Granted, they don't use them as weapons. You haven't heard of the Great Okan, my friend. Basically, his gimmick is when he went on an excursion to Rev Pro in the UK, they gave him basically a Mongol character. But when he came back, known as the Great Okan. But when he came back to New Japan, they changed it to Okan and gave him more a gimmick akin to a Jiangshi, which is a Japanese hopping vampire. Trust me, I had to do a lot of digging on some of these gimmicks. And this is basically your typical powerhouse juggernaut team. I know you've watched Cobb, a bit of Jeff Cobb, buddy. But Okan, this is a guy who's a different breed of cat. He is physically imposing, technically sound with an amateur background, and watch out for his claw slam that he calls the Eliminator. Imagine the Iron Claw going around your face like this, then you get lifted into the air and thrown down onto the canvas. Chase Owens, I guess you could call him as something as more of the bottom man in the Bullet Club totem pole. Well, even though he's been part of the group since 2015 or 16 through an old NWA New Japan working arrangement. Trained by Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, if you can believe that. Balak Fale, on the other hand, dojo graduate from way back in the day. New Japan Dojo graduate from a good whiles back. As I mentioned, he was one of the core four of Bullet Club when it was formed in 2013. You know what the other thing I hate is about that luchador mask I hate is the surface is covered in glitter. Anyway, YOSHI-HASHI was kind of the bottom man in chaos for a while, but in 2020, he and Goto, along with Tomohiro Ishii, had began the longest never openweight six-man title run of 450 plus days and 9 defenses, which only got stopped this past November by the House of Torture. Anyway, Goto, on the other hand, originally not part of Chaos. He was part of factions in the early days, in the early and mid 2000s. He was part of a group called Jushin Liger's group called CTU, or the Controlled Terrorism Unit. And later, he joined Shinsuke Nakamura's original attempt at a faction called the Real International Super Elite. Or if you take the rest of those words out and leave the first letters, it's spelled Rise. After Rise disbanded, he was part of the New Japan Home Squad, or the Hontai. But he had the moniker of a nearly man, never able to win the heavyweight title. 8 attempts at it, and he failed every single time against great Keiji Muto, Satoshi Kojima, twice to Shinsuke Nakamura, or once to Nakamura, 3 times, I believe, to Hiroshi Tanahashi, and twice to Kazuchika Okada. 2016, he ends up joining Chaos, where he becomes a 5-time never openweight champ. Prior to this, he was a former 2-time Intercontinental champ, Junior Tag champ, and Heavyweight Tag champ. The latter of those runs with Katsuyori Shibata didn't last long. Then he won the aforementioned never openweight 6-man tag title run with Yoshi-Hashi and Ishii. And he and Yoshi even went on to win the IWGP Heavyweight Tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom. They only dropped them recently. If you're wondering what kind of character Goto is, Gabe, he's basically your samurai stereotype. Very bound to the tenets of Bushido. Bushido. So much so that in one case in 2018, he and Suzuki went at in a hair versus hair match. Goto won it, and that's why Suzuki doesn't have that massive mohawk in the back of his head anymore. Who do I take to win? I'm going to say the United Empire retains the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Too soon to take the belts off them, though. Would I put it past Bullet Club to steal the titles? Come up with a way to steal the titles right out from under the nose of the champs and and Bishamon? No, I wouldn't. Match number 6. For the never openweight class championship, Tanga challenges the champion, Evil. Evil was a young Tama was part of the core four that founded Bullet Club alongside Devitt, Fale, and Anderson. But during the New Japan Cup, he, Tonga Loa, and Jado, who also was not part of Bullet Club originally, he was actually part of another faction, which was the precursor to Chaos, GBH, Great Bash Heel, alongside Gato, before Nakamura and Yano poached most of the faction and formed Chaos, and then Gato, Jado, and Jay White all hopped ship to Bullet Club in 2018. Anyway, Tama got kicked out during the New Japan Cup tournament in March. In no surrender, or in Impact, when Jay White turned on him and brought the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, back into the fold. Tama is a guy kind of like me. He's bent on the tenet of loyalty. He lives and thrives by it. And if you help him, he'll repay that trust. But double cross him, he's going to come after you. And Evil is a guy who, in Tama's mind, started forming the fractures in Bullet Club by forming the House of Torture faction. Evil, on the other hand, started off as a young lion under his real name, Takai Watanabe. Then he came back in 2015, and after a one-year stint in Ring of Honor, under the moniker of Evil, and was originally part of Tetsuya Naito's faction, Los Ingobernables de Japon, as one of its founding pieces. But in 2020, he felt like he was in the bottom of the totem pole of LIJ. So after he won the New Japan Cup, he turned on Los Ingobernables de Japon and joined Bullet Club. Even winning the IWGP Heavyweight Intercontinental titles off Naito, but he would quickly drop them. But since joining Bullet Club and becoming the founder of the sub-branch, the House of Torture, Evil has basically regressed in terms of his wrestling skills, as he's basically had to win every one of his matches through foul methods, turnbuckle removals, low blows, ref bumps, and more especially having a manager like Dick Togo, another guy you'd probably remember from his WWE stint with Kai and Tai before he got let go, bringing a Garrett to choke his opponent out. And for those who don't know what a Garrett is, it's a strangulation device. Depending on the thickness of the wire, you can basically suffocate, although you can also use it with a scarf. Depending on how tight you pull and the thickness of the density of the wire, you can either suffocate your opponent to death if it's a very thick wire, and this one is. It's basically elevator cable. Or if it's as thin as a piano wire or a violin string, you could decapitate somebody with it. No joke. Now, I know Jado will be in Tama Tonga's corner. But you gotta watch out for the rest of the House of Torture. Sure, Yujiro may be licking his wounds after he loses, but Sho, that's someone you gotta keep an eye on. Regardless of how this pans out, Tama is gonna need more than Jado as backup. Can't rely on Hikuleo. He's been Jay White is too deep in his ear. And to help you, Jay White's too deep in the ear of little brother. That's one thing I forgot to mention about God and Hikuleo. They're brothers, so technically, two of them, Tama is adopted. Leo and Tanga are blood brothers. All three of them sons of Haku. Does Tama get his revenge on Evil? Unfortunately, I do not believe this will happen. If it does, I'll be damned. If it doesn't, I won't be shocked. I will take Evil to retain the Never Openweight Class Championship. And if you're wondering what the Never title is supposed to be, Gabe, it's basically supposed to be an open weight championship where anyone from any weight class can go after it. The acronym stands for, and let me get it up. It's supposed to stand for New Blood, Evolution, Valiantly Eternal, and Eternal Radical. However, this basically devolved into a strong style title, as the title's holders include, but are not limited to, Tomohiro Ishii, Shinya Makabe, Katsuyori Shibata, Yuji Nagata, Hirooki Goto, Minoru Suzuki, Kota Ibushi, Jeff Cobb, Will Ospreay, past owners, I might want to point out, Kenta, and Shingo Takagi, Jay White, and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Excuse me. And Will Ospreay even held it. Now let's move on to the final three matches. First, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. Representing Bullet Club, Taiji Ishimori. Representing Suzukigun, El Desperado, who is the champion. Desperado, he's basically known as the Rogue Luchador. His storyline, the character storyline is he's from a mixed blood. Japanese through his mother, Mexican through his father. He originally appeared in New Japan as a babyface in 2014, but then he joined Suzukigun that July. And he's willing to fight dirty. Ishimori, on the other hand, if you remember him from his time in Noah and when he popped up in Ring of Honor periodically, and maybe one brief stint in Impact, he was always the clean-cut babyface. But once he joined Bullet Club in 2018, he became a full-blown heel. Now, granted, he still has that athleticism he's had since his days in Noah. And like Despy, he's held the IWGP Junior title twice. The only reason Ishimori has this title opportunity is because he beat Desperado during the Best of Super Juniors tournament last fall. And the only reason the tournament was held in the fall past 2 years, and not in the spring, was because of COVID spikes. Spikes pushing the tournament back. Now, we haven't had an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion pull off more than four successful defenses since 2016. Actually, that's the case with most of the titles these days, outside of the World Heavyweight title. Granted, that title's still brand new. But that being said, with the exception of whenever it's around Okada's waist, that title will hardly has also had a bit of a hand swapping fetch. But anyway, back with this title. Despy has been fighting more like a babyface since he won the title because he wants to bring honor and prestige to it. And Ishimori, given that he joined Bullet Club and is more than willing to play dirty, is more than willing to don the black hat. And Despy's gotta watch out for that. I'm more worried if Ishimori loads his boot with a hunk of metal. For those who don't get this little quip, during the time Ishimori's tag partner El Phantasmo from 2020 to 20 up until this past January had been wrestling, he'd been using a super kick called Sudden Death, which he claimed increased his foot. He claimed by enhancing his foot strength by super kicking trees, which was a lie. There was a he had lined the sole. He had an insert line. He had a lead insert inside the boot. Now, granted, Phantasmo's gone back to using sudden death, just not with the boot loaded. But to Ishimori, on the other hand, Ishimori is more one who's willing to come at you with everything he's got. His finisher is Bloody Cross. Think of Bloody Sunday, except he turns it into a gut buster. And the Bone Soldier moniker wasn't his to begin with. It actually belonged to another guy who was known by the moniker of Captain New Japan. And let's just say, Gabe, the OG Bone Soldier, he sucked. He was horrible. There was nothing redeemable about him. It was so bad they kicked him out of the Bullet Club at the start of 2017. And he retired from wrestling after that. When promos for for a new Bone Soldier came out in 2018, people were dreading Captain New Japan was back. Thankfully, that was not the case. It was Ishimori. Brought into Bullet Club by Tama Tonga, only for Tama to betray him almost 4 years later. Only for him to betray Tama 4 years later. Ironic, isn't it? Anyway, my pick is Taichi is going to be Desperado to retain the title. This puts the target on Despy's back going in the Best of Super Juniors 29 in a couple of weeks. Now let's get to the semi-main. For the vacated IWGP US Heavyweight Championship, the preceding champion, Hiroshi Tanahashi, goes up against the Ace of New Japan and goes up against the Commonwealth Kingpin, the Billy Goat, the leader of the United Empire. I really can't do the crown. Will Ospreay, who's gone from luchador style high flyer to basically powerhouse who can do some of the flippy shit, but some of his moves have been limited by his weight training, by putting on the weight, namely his spinning kick on a downed opponent they called the Robinson Special. He can't do that anymore. Ospreay was originally brought into New Japan by Okada and brought into Chaos in the spring of 2016, where he would thrive with 3 new IWGP Junior Heavyweight title reigns, a never openweight title run, and 2 Best of the Super Juniors tournament victories. But in 2020, he betrayed Okada and formed his own group, the United Empire. which ended up getting him the New Japan Cup tournament win last year and a brief stint as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, which was ended due to an injury. Tanahashi, on the other hand, was the guy who brought New Japan out of the dark ages of the 2000s. Ironically, you know what got him to his elevation of stardom, Gabe? It was in 2002 when his ex-girlfriend ended up stabbing him, and yet Tanahashi survived. 2008 to 2011, 9 or so, Tanahashi put the company on his back. At the end of the 2000s, he had 4 runs as IWGP Heavyweight Champion, but his 5th run would elevate New Japan to new heights, where he held the title for over a year. But in recent years, Tanahashi's body has been giving out due to numerous injuries because of the style of wrestling he pulls. Tanahashi is known for a lot of things. One of his most prominent things is after he wins a major match or even a title, he will do air guitar concerts. No joke. I'm not joking on this, Gabe. He does air guitar when he wins major main event matches or titles. And then, of course, declaring his love for the audience with a loud shout of "Aishiteru," which is basically Japanese for "I love you" to his fans. I mean, they call him Big Match Time. He's basically New Japan's fusion of Hulk Hogan and John Cena, if I could put it in any better way. The only difference is, unlike Hogan and Cena, Tanahashi can actually wrestle. But unfortunately, I do not think Tanahashi will become the first 3-time IWGP US Heavyweight Champion here. I think it's time for the torch to get passed and the Commonwealth Kingpin to capture the gold. I am taking Will Ospreay to stake his claim and become the IWGP US Heavyweight Champion. For those wondering why this match is even happening for the gold, basically during the New Japan Cup, Ospreay fractured the eye socket of the previous champion, Los Ingobernables de Japón Sanada, which forced Sanada to vacate the title. Now, let's move on to our main event. 2 rivals since their days as young lions in the mid 2000s. On one side, the challenger for the IWGP World Heavyweight title, the leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón, Tetsuya Naito. On the other side, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, the leader of Chaos, the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. In world title matches against Okada, Naito's record the record stands 4-2 in favor of Okada. Oh, sorry, 5-2 in favor 5-2 in favor of Okada. I forgot about the Dominion 2016 match that they had. Sorry, I was following the Met game. Anyway, moving on. We all know Okada. Originally a young lion, he popped up in TNA in 2010 under the stupid Green Hornet sidekick gimmick, Okado, where he was partnered up with Samoa Joe. That was a dumb gimmick, for those wondering. Came back to New Japan 2012, joined Chaos, and within a month became the IWGP Heavyweight Champion by defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi. Then we go on to have four more reigns, hold the title for a cumulative 1,790 days, and defend it 30 times over the next 7 years, including a reign that went nearly 2 years with 12 defenses. A New Japan record. On the other hand, Tetsuya Naito, who started off, as I mentioned, with you in the same way as Yujiro. But, however, Naito was a clean-cut babyface throughout the majority of his career. But after winning G1 23, his popularity took a hit. The G1 is a round-robin tournament, Gabe, where you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, no points for a loss. And if you win the tournament, at least since 2012, you get a chance to wrestle in the main event. You get to wrestle in the main event for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom in the January 4th show in the Tokyo Dome. Though you do have to defend the title shot against whoever beat set number of opponents, depending on who beats you in the tournament. Anyway, Naito was not a strong challenger for Okada at the time. So at Wrestle Kingdom 8, he and Okada got demoted to semi-main event opposite Tanahashi and Okada, who were fighting over the IWGP Intercontinental title. Naito's popularity continued to go into a downward tailspin until he was sent on excursion in 2015 to the CMLL promotion in Mexico, where he joined the original Los Ingobernables faction, comprised of Perot, Rey Escorpion, La Mascara, Marco Corleone, Rush, who you would know from Ring of Honor, and La Sombra, a.k.a. Andrade El Idolo. It was there Naito would ditch his ultra babyface character and basically become an ungovernable, an ingobernable, a renegade rule breaker who didn't give a fuck what you thought about him. Lay back, lazy, sloth-like in movement, but not for comedic purposes. But this pulled the crowd to his side. It ended up, and thus he formed his own offshoot, Los Ingobernables de Japon, comprised originally of Evil, Bushi. They would later get Sonata in April of 2016. That acquisition ended up helping Naito win the IWGP Heavyweight title for the first time. Hiromu Takahashi at the end of that year. Shingo Takagi in October of 2018. They ended up losing Evil, well, as I mentioned earlier, or when he hop shipped to the Bullet Club in 2020. And it's been this quintet ever since. But lately, Naito has been wrestling a lot more conservatively. Both men have been wrestling a lot more conservatively. Normally, with an Okada match, you expect to get a fight that goes 20, it goes 30, 35, or even 40 minutes. But that did a number on Okada's back, and since then, most of his matches, at least this year, have not gone beyond 30 minutes. You're lucky if you get over 25 with him. Likewise, Naito was more known for a lot of high-impact offense, but with the amount of damage done to his knees over the years, he's been playing it much more safely. So who do I think wins this match? Well, if what I think is going to happen setting up for Forbidden Door, and Punk beats Hangman at Double or Nothing on May 29th, I do believe They're going to set up champion versus champion. Non-title, of course, at Forbidden Door on June 26th. Okada against Punk. But for that to happen, Okada cannot and must not drop the IWGP World Heavyweight title between now and the Forbidden Door. Sorry, Naito. I love you, but I'm taking the Rainmaker to walk in and out of the PayPay Dome in Fukuoka, still the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. That is my lock it up pick of this event. It's only available on New Japan World and New Japan World alone. And believe me, you gotta wake up at the crack, almost at the ass crack of dawn just to catch this show. That's all I got for you, Gabe, in regards to this event. I know I didn't go into much depth with these wrestlers, but I gave you what I could. But maybe if you get your own New Japan World account and dig through the archives, maybe you'll get a bit of a sense of what my eyes have been open to when it comes to Puroresu, Japanese pro wrestling. That's all I got for the stream. I'd like to thank everyone who did bother to show up to this. Leave a comment, smash the like, sub to the channel. This is my longest ever predictions video I've ever had to do for a wrestling event. That's not a podcast. And for now, I must bid you adieu. So, until next time, goodbye and good night. Bang!